All right.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amber Baker. I'm the Wellness Specialist through NAPEPT. And today we are joined by Arizona Central Credit Union. Patrick from Arizona Central Credit Union is going to speak to us about money management. And Patrick, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Zabal. I'm the Partner Alliance Officer for Arizona Central Credit Union. And previously, I was the manager for our Ina Road location in Tucson since 2015. But I've been in banking since 2012. I started with Wells Fargo.
Great. Thanks, Patrick.
Absolutely. All right, so we are this webinar is going to be based around how to increase banking convenience, save time, saving money, kind of reducing headaches regarding money management. We're going to be including things that any financial institution can offer, so it's not going to be strictly things that Arizona Central Credit Union can do. Obviously, you'll see our logo on every slide, but just know that anything that we talk about today, you'll be able to find at your financial institution, and I can always help you do that since they're not always called the same thing. So the topics today, let me get into the course overview here. We're going to be talking about online banking and using mobile banking to manage your money. We will be discussing shared branching. This is specific to credit unions. In Flagstaff, we are the only shared branch credit union, but shared branching is essentially a network of credit unions that are 5,000 branches and over 30,000 ATMs. So I'll get more into it a little bit later, but I just wanted to let you know we'll be discussing that. And then we'll be talking about how to do a financial health check and continue to manage your money using the money management tools. And I'll give you the Arizona Central context for Flagstaff. So the first step here is signing up for online banking wherever you do your banking at. The biggest thing here is going to be being able to pay your bills using their bill pay service. So you can pay anything from a mortgage to a vehicle loan. Generally, it's going to be free, and you can set up different payees as well. This is the main way that you're going to be able to avoid paying late fees. So bill pay is essentially an online checkbook. And what you can do is you can set up different bills to either pay out automatically or you can do it manually each time. I tend to err on the side of doing these things manually, and generally just because I like to have kind of more control over my account instead of things just going out automatic, but you can set this up anyway. And I'm going to talk about a couple of lesser known things that you can do with bill pay. So you can actually use it to pay people directly. So for instance, I have family all around the country, and not all of them are very techy. So what you can do on the bill pay service is you can actually, in the account number field, since obviously you don't have an account number with your sister, for instance, right? If you're going to send the bill pay to her address, you can actually just type in her address in that field, or leave it blank if the bill pay service allows you to do so. And then for the payee name, you can put her name, and then for the address, her address. And what the bill pay system will do is it'll send her a cashier's check to her address, and then she can take that check to her bank and deposit it. This is kind of to avoid having to do a wire transfer. So you definitely want to avoid that as much as possible, because those can cost anywhere between $20 and $50 per transfer. And then on the receiving end, the average fee is about $10. So I would say you're saving about $40 on both ends there by doing something like this. And obviously people are going to say, well, why not just use PayPal or Venmo or one of these third parties, right, to just send her money? Well, not everybody uses those, and I know for my family, pretty much nobody uses those, and so I've been able to use Bill Pay, and I would say I've saved at least $500 in fees and things like that by using it appropriately. Another way to use it that's lesser known, if you don't want the check to go to her mailbox, maybe you're worried about, I don't know, mail theft or her just not noticing it, what you can do you can ask her for her account number at her bank or credit union, and you would need that anyway for a wire transfer, right? So that's kind of a normal thing to ask when you're trying to pay somebody money. And you can put her actual bank account number in the account number field, and then obviously in the payee field you'd put her name, and then in the address field you can send it to either her branch or the headquarters of her financial institution, and that's called banking by mail. So what it's going to do is it's going to send a check that has her account number and her name already loaded, and she's not going to have to do anything. Her bank's just going to deposit it into her account as soon as they receive that in the mail. So these two methods that I talked about do take longer. So it is about 5 business days. Usually it's less on average, but they're usually going to quote you that to account for weather and things like that. So you do have to kind of plan it a little bit more than, say, a wire transfer, which would go that same day. But it is a nice method to save a lot of money in the long run. And then with the second method, you know, the other party doesn't even get involved. It just gets deposited into their bank account, which is nice. So one thing I will say, though, when you're using a service like Bill Pay, you are essentially writing a check, right? So you don't want to use nicknames, things like that, where the bank is going to see that and say, oh, well, who is, if her name is Sue, but you use Sally, for instance, you know, there might be some issues there. So you always want to be on the lookout for that. So let me get to the next one here. So electronic statements. Oh, hang on a second. I think I just dropped out of presenter mode here.
Let's see. So I'm still able to see your screen, Patrick.
Oh, are you? Okay.
What I'm seeing is currently there's a couple. I think it's maybe slow to load.
Here we go. I got it.
Great. Perfect. And welcome the 2 or 3 that just joined us on the call. My name is Amber Baker, and I'm helping to host today with Patrick Zabals here from Arizona Central Credit Union. So thanks for calling in. Feel free to use the chat bubble box if you need to ask any questions. We'll address those toward the end there. And welcome. Okay, Patrick.
All right. So we were just talking about how to using Bill Pay in kind of some different manners. So now we're on to electronic statements. So I would say most people are already on electronic statements, but a couple of things that I like about them is there is less chance of identity theft. Mail theft is pretty rampant these days, so that's another great reason to be on it if you aren't. Another one is it does provide you with a history of your statements. If you haven't been essentially collecting them in a file at home somewhere, then it's nice to have that history, because if you do get something like a IRS audit, you can easily just get back in there and be able to print out everything, or you know, access your statements at any time, which is nice. And then there are account management pieces as well. So a lot of times with the online banking system, you can access things such as placing a stop payment on a check. Maybe it's an odd hour of the day, or at the beginning of the month. A lot of times the banks get, pretty occupied, or the call centers get backlogged. So instead of waiting on hold for half an hour, you could just place a stop payment on your check there online. And that can a lot of times save you from maybe somebody stole that check and it's going to get cleared, so it can save you some hassle there and some time. And then also there are different mobile apps that you can use as well, no matter where you are banking at. You'll find that not all of them have remote check deposit, but most of them will, and you can essentially deposit your checks with your cell phone. So you can take a snapshot of the front of the check, and then it'll ask you to take one of the back, and it'll deposit it into your account. The only thing I would warn you on with remote deposit is you want to make sure that the check is signed on the back. Obviously that the check is written out to you or somebody that's on your account, and then it's signed, and generally you're going to want to put for mobile deposit only, and that way the bank on the other end can actually tell that this was meant to be for depositing through your phone rather than, say, at the branch or in the ATM. So let me get forward here. So money transferring. So this is pretty standard. Most everyone has used this. You can transfer between checking to savings and things like that. You do want to be wary of accounts such as money market accounts that are not meant to be transferred out of too often. So definitely be on the lookout for transfer limits. A lot of money market accounts are going to say no more than 3 transfers per month or no more than 6. It just depends on your account. And if you do, obviously you'll get hit with a fee on that, so you want to try to avoid that. But a lesser known use of money transferring is if you were to transfer money from your checking account to something, say, like a credit card or an auto loan that you have at that same financial institution, and that actually counts as a payment. So you can, instead of having to use like the bill pay system in your own internal accounts, you can actually just transfer money online. So that's going to save you some time, having to go into the branch. Let's say your auto loan is due on the 5th, and then your credit card's due on the 25th. That would be 2 less trips that you would have to make, and it can also help you to avoid late fees and things like that. And that's I feel like that's the main use for me in terms of convenience products, is going to be saving money, saving time, and just having like a better overall financial health, I would say. So loan payments, you can also do automatic loan payments to make sure you're not missing due dates. Again, I do err on the side of manual payments, but automatic is great if you have a healthy amount of money at all times in your checking account, and you always know that it's going to be paid on time. That's going to save you a lot of money in the long run, and also help your credit so that you're not missing due dates, right? So text and email alerts, no matter where you're at, you'll be able to set these, and a lot of them are going to be very, very useful, such as large withdrawal. So I like to set mine for anywhere between $200 to $500, and it'll send me a text message. That's very helpful, especially if there's maybe fraudulent activity going on your account. You'll get that text message and you'll say, I didn't spend over $200 at that place. You don't want to set it too low because you might be getting a lot of alerts, but I'd say play around with it, because there's a lot of different alerts that you can set up there. Some other good ones are large deposits as well. So Maybe you're expecting money coming in from family. You can set up an alert for a large deposit so that you know when that has cleared. You can also set up alerts for when money is transferred as well, and they're very customizable, so there's a lot of different ones that you can have on there. And then, so this is the main part here. So it does say, as a member of Arizona Central, you have access to free budgeting software. So this also goes for other financial institutions. Ours is called MX, and it's a budgeting software that can track your expenses. It can help you budget, save more money, and managing your money as well. So we're actually going to get into that here. These all tend to be pretty similar, so everything that I talk about regarding the budgeting software should lend itself to wherever you're at. All right, so on the mobile banking front, these are going to be mobile apps, right? So the first step is actually to get online banking going on a computer, because it won't generally let you skip straight to mobile. But once you have that set up, then you can download the mobile app either on the Apple Store or on the Android, the Play Store. And with this, you can actually do a lot of what we just talked about. Sometimes it won't let you set up a payee on Bill Pay, but once it's set up, it'll let you do anything you need to, like make a payment or cancel a payment. Other times it'll just let you do everything on the mobile app, so I would definitely just play around with it. But the biggest thing is checking your balance and transaction history on the go, transferring funds between your accounts. You can also locate branches and ATMs. And then let me skip through this one here. So this just talks about where to get it. And so now text message banking. So if you haven't used this before, I mean, it is a little bit old school, I'll say, but I actually use this all the time. It is a little bit easier than having to sign into your mobile app every time, but you can actually use text message banking. In the case of if you are already a Arizona Central Credit Union member, our text command line is that 454545 that you see. And if you text these commands, you can actually get your balance on all of your accounts or just your primary, checking and savings, your transactions, things like that. And so that command line is going to change depending on where you're at. But it's very, very fast. You can send, BAL in seconds, and then you get the response back in a second or less generally. So now shared branching. So this one, again, it's specific to credit unions. It's called the Co-op Credit Union Network. It is 5,000 branches nationwide and 30,000 ATMs. In Flagstaff, Arizona Central Credit Union is the only shared branch location. So we've got 2 there. There's also, just to give you an example of what it can do, is in the Valley there's over 60 branches. In Tucson there are 30. And just as an idea, like in Prescott there's 2, right? And so if let's say you're traveling to California and you're worried because you're a credit union member, right? So you'd have to be in Arizona to do your banking normally. Well, you can actually access branches in all around the country, and also parts of international as well, parts of Europe. And you can do deposits, withdrawals, just as if you had an account there, but it's actually a different credit union. So that's what shared branching is. This may not apply to too many of you unless you're already Arizona Central members. So I'm going to skip ahead here. You can Google or type in this here, co-opcreditunions.org, and you can see the locations. I usually just Google co-op credit unions, and you can actually type in a zip code to kind of plan for a trip maybe, you're visiting family. You can see what shared branches are in that location. So because of this system, credit unions are actually larger and more accessible than the big banks. Not added together, but like individually. And so, yeah, it just kind of makes life easier on that end. So let me skip ahead here. All right, so now this is going to be how to get a financial health check through budgeting software. So let me get through here. All right, so this screen here just shows you one of the ways that you can view this budgeting software. What it'll do is it'll either allow you to import your activity automatically, and it'll create these bubbles that are essentially your home expenses, your food and dining,
Mary.
Your financial expenses, auto and transportation, things like that. So, or you can just obviously see it as a list. It doesn't have to be like bubbly like in this specific example. But one thing that you can do with this is you can create where your expenses are going out to, what deposits are coming in, so you can kind of view your cash flow, like whatever is coming in and going out, what are you left with at the end. And so I'm just going to play a short video here, that's just a trailer for this budgeting software. So let me get that loaded. All right, so that was, all right, hang on a second, let me get back into the PowerPoint. All right, so that was kind of a lot of information really fast, but I wanted to show you the video because it shows some of the things that you can do before I start talking about it. So let me get to the next slide here. So it's actually, when I started using this budgeting software, I'd say it definitely changed my life in regards to finances, because what it allows you to do is get your entire financial picture all in one place. So you can have your, let's say you have your deposit accounts at a bank, and then you have an auto loan and a credit card at a credit union. Maybe you have a Capital One card, a Discover, I'm just kind of giving examples here. And then you have your mortgage somewhere random, right? Because mortgages get sold around. So you probably already have multiple financial institutions that you're dealing with. So you could have all 5 of those imported into this system so that you have your mortgage, your auto, any kind of debts in here, even investments. So this links to a lot of investment firms. So you could have your IRA, your 401k, and the mortgage end of it also links to a third party that figures out the value of your home. So, like a Zillow or something like that. And all of that feeds into this net worth button here. I can't actually click on these things because I'd have to log into my personal account. So I apologize about that, but I'm going to try to kind of point to it with my cursor. so that I could show you where it all goes. But you can create very, very complicated budgets in here, or simple ones, depending on what's best for you. You can also, if you take a couple hours, maybe like an hour each day for a little bit to import everything into this site, you can even go through and set what your interest rates are. Let's say you have 5 credit cards. One of them is at, I don't know, 13%, and then you have a couple maybe north of 20, like 22%. You can create kind of attack plans on how you're going to get those higher interest rate cards down and save, thousands of dollars in the long term, and save yourself from having to make payments for the next 10, 12 years, right? If you're only doing minimums. So this is really an important system that you can use. Most everywhere is going to have this, so definitely ask your personal banker or your loan officer, or just poke around on the website that you're using to try and find a tool like this, because when you can have your net worth, your goals created there, what your cash flow is. So after everything's gone out and come in, what are you left with? Maybe what are the trends that you have created with what you're left with? So if your trend is to use the leftover at Starbucks, maybe an additional trip to Starbucks, right? Then cutting that back and maybe putting it into a higher interest rate debt can definitely help. Or maybe in your budget, there's something every month you're spending on the same thing, but it's maybe not something necessary. It'll allow you to have everything all in one place with one tool. So it's definitely, I'd say the most important part that I got from having an online banking account is utilizing something like this. And again, it can take some time at the start. Unless you can auto-import from your history, which will take all of your transactions from your checking and savings account, and it'll put it directly into here. That's a little bit easier, but what I did is I went debt by debt, right? My credit card, I figured out what the interest rate is, how much is the minimum payment, or how much do I want to be paying. And I was able to create a plan that saved me 3 years and at least $1,000 in savings just from slightly increasing that payment, and at least being able to see it on a graph, right? Like, what is this going to do to free up my money, or in the long term, how much am I going to save? And this will tell you all of that. So that's the really interesting thing about this tool here. Move on to the next one here. Okay, so here you can see that they have it set to be in these bubbles. Not everyone likes these, and obviously you can turn it off. But what you can do is you can set, how much do I want to spend on something like public transportation, or maybe you can even get specific, like Uber. If you're using Uber a lot, maybe your car isn't working, or you decided to get rid of your car, right, or something like that. You can set limits, and when it's red, you'll be over budget. Yellow is kind of in the middle, and then green is you're doing okay, right? And so you can set food and dining limits and things like that. Not everyone's budget is going to be the same, so this allows you to kind of customize it to your own. If you see this button here, Auto Generate Budgets, this is what is going to import from your activity that you've already had at that bank. So if you're new to that bank or credit union, don't use this. Just hit the Start from Scratch, or manually upload your financial information. And let me move on here. Here we go. So you can see all of your debts in one place, and you can graph it out in different ways. So it could be, simple text on the screen, or it can be in these colorful graphs like you see here. When your payments are due and your past, present, and future for it. You can also add different debt accounts as well. so let's move on here. All right. So that was the overview for the budgeting tool. I'm going to give you a couple of contacts here. We've got Austin Malden. She's the assistant branch manager of our Woodlands Village Boulevard branch. That's on Woodlands and University. And we've also got Jordan. She is our West Street. Now it says assistant branch manager, but she was actually just recently promoted to branch manager. So if you're already a member or if you're planning on becoming one, feel free to congratulate her for me. And she's on West Street behind Coconino High School. And we've also got our Member Solution Center, so that's our call center essentially. Those are the two numbers for that. All right, so I'm going to open it up to some questions here. Have we gotten any questions yet, Amber?
Hey, sorry, I am not seeing any in the chat box. But those of you that have called on, did his presentation spark any questions? And then also just to mention before we get into questions, I want you guys to know that some of you that are calling on just on the phone, in order for me to enter your point, I'll need to get your name after we answer questions. So stay on the line so that I can gather your name. But anyway, yeah, I'm not seeing questions through the chat box. If you're having a hard time enabling your audio, there's a phone icon on Free Conference Call. If you click on that, it'll allow you to enable audio either through your computer microphone or through the telephone calling in. Okay. Well, if there aren't any questions, Patrick, you were saying there were some common questions last time you presented this in person. Do you remember what some of those were?
Yes. So people were asking about the functionality of the budgeting software and kind of what are its limitations and things like that. And what I told them is it's essentially very you can change it to be anything that you need it to be. So if you need it to be very terribly simple, you know, and honestly mine is pretty simple. I don't get into like you know, automated budgets and future projections and things like that, which you can do on there. But it could be as simple or as complicated as needed. And if you've been at that financial institution for a while, you know, you can auto import things into it. Another thing is having a budget on paper is nice, but when you can actually import live information about your mortgage, how much your home is worth, your auto loan, let's say checking and savings accounts, maybe you have a 401k, an IRA like an individual retirement account. Normally, I mean, just in my case, I would be logging into 9 different websites to get this information. Okay, I'd be logging into 4 different credit card, you know, carriers. I would be logging into my mortgage people because my mortgage got sold over to SunTrust. So, you know, instead of having to log into those 9 different websites, I can actually view it all in one tool. And what it helped me do actually is really chunk down my debt is the main thing. And I don't know if any of you have listened to places like, you know, Dave Ramsey or like other kind of debt consolidation tip places. Their tips are great, and a tool like this is something that's really going to help you get there. So a couple of other common questions that I would get is regarding the bill pay service. So when I first started talking about some of the uncommon things you can use with bill pay, I think we didn't have everybody in here. So maybe I'll just repeat really quickly some of the things that you can use for it. So with the bill pay service, a couple of uncommon things that you can use is you can actually send bill pays out personally to individuals and avoid doing things like wire transfers, especially if it's like friends or family that aren't very techy. So maybe they don't know how to use something like PayPal or Venmo, these third parties that we see today. And what you can do is in the account number field, since you're not going to have an account number with them, you can just put their address or leave that blank if it lets you. And then you can put their name and their address and send bill pays directly to their mailbox, where they can then pick it up and take it to their bank. And that can get around the $30 to $50 wire transfer fee. And then on their end, they're going to be paying an incoming wire fee as well. So that can save you a lot of money. Another thing is you can actually send the bill pays directly to their bank. So if maybe they don't want to get it out of their mailbox and take it to their bank, and you want to just avoid the situation entirely, you can ask them for their account number for their checking account. You could put that in the account number field, put their name in the payee field, and then in the address field, find their local branch, ask them where their local branch is, or just mail it to the company headquarters for that bank. And what they're going to do is the bank is going to get it in the mail. It's called banking by mail. They're going to deposit it into that person's account, and they don't even have to do anything. So that's another really great use of bill pay that has saved me a lot of money in wire fees. Because honestly, not many of my family members are using stuff like PayPal. So
Great, thank you, Patrick. Did that spark any questions for anyone else on the line? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And Central Arizona Credit Union sometimes offers different webinars through NAPEP's Wellness Program as well as in person. So keep a lookout for our online calendar and emails for those. And once again, those of you who just called in, I'm going to gather your username so I can offer you a point for this session. Patrick, did you have any last words before I end the recording of this session?
I just want to thank everyone for their time, and if you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. We're always here to help. Even if you're not planning to become a member, we can always assist with anything. What I'll do is Amber has my contact information, and I have a business cell phone, so you can always reach me at my direct line. I can help with anything. I've kind of ran the gambit in terms of banking or credit unions, so I've held almost any position that you can hold at a bank or credit union, starting from a teller all the way up to manager, and now in my Partnership Alliance program. So feel free to reach out. I want to thank you all for your time, and have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Okay, and if you actually don't mind, Patrick, staying on the line for a couple minutes while I gather these, I just don't want anything to go wrong with our conference call online. Is that okay with you?
Sure.